The rooftop restaurant glittered with chandeliers, soft jazz, and the hushed voices of men in tailored suits. At the center table sat Victor Langford, a billionaire tech magnate poised to finalize a deal worth $200 million. Across from him were two foreign investors, their smiles sharp, their pens already poised above the papers. Victor scanned the contract. It looked airtight, too airtight. He leaned back, thinking. He prided himself on being the smartest man in the room. That's when a voice interrupted. "Don't sign that." Everyone turned. It was the waitress, just a young woman in a simple black uniform, balancing an empty tray. Her brown eyes were steady, her voice calm but firm. The investors sneered. "Excuse me. Do your job and leave us," one of them snapped. But Victor raised a hand. "What did you just say?" The waitress set down the tray. "I overheard while pouring your wine. The clause on page 7 it isn't what you think. The language makes it look like you're buying equity, but you're actually surrendering majority control of your entire company. It's a takeover disguised as a partnership." Victor's heart skipped. He flipped frantically to page 7. He'd skimmed it, thinking it was boilerplate. But now, with her words echoing, the trap became clear. The investors stiffened. "That's ridiculous," one barked. "This girl is just a server. She doesn't know, actually." She cut in smoothly. "I studied corporate law before my mother got sick. Couldn't afford to finish. But I know predatory contracts when I see them. And this one reeks of fraud." The room fell silent. Victor's eyes narrowed on the men across from him. Their fake smiles had evaporated, leaving only tight jaws and twitching eyes. He realized she was right. They hadn't been negotiating, they'd been hunting. Slowly, Victor set the pen down. Meeting adjourned. The investors tried to protest, but security moved in. Within hours, background checks revealed their empire of shell companies, lawsuits, and victims worldwide. They were arrested before their jet could leave the country. Later that night, Victor found the waitress Elena waiting for her bus in the rain. He pulled up in his sleek black car and rolled down the window. "You didn't just save me $200 million, he said. "You saved my company." She gave a small smile, just doing what anyone should. But Victor shook his head. "No, you saw what no one else could. How would you like to be more than a waitress?" That night, Elena left with him not as an employee, but as his new chief legal advisor, the one woman in the city who had the courage to stand up and say the words that changed everything. "Don't sign that." The rooftop restaurant shimmered with a golden glow, the kind of place where business empires were born or destroyed. Strings of lights glimmered across the skyline, the city sprawling endlessly below. At the private table near the balcony sat Victor Langford, a billionaire tech magnate in his mid-40s. His presence was quiet, but commanding, the kind of man who had built his fortune on both brilliance and ruthless instincts. Tonight, however, he was in unfamiliar territory. Across from him, two sharply dressed investors, Marcelo De Luca and Eric Voss, flashed charming smiles. They had flown in on a private jet, wooed him for weeks with promises of expansion into European markets. The contract on the table was worth $200 million. Marcelo pushed the pen forward. "All it takes is your signature, Mr. Langford, and we'll make history together." Victor studied the pages, brow furrowing. Something felt slick, too easy. But the wording was dense, laced with corporate jargon. His advisors had assured him it was clean. Still, instinct made him hesitate. That's when a quiet voice cut through the tension. "Don't sign that." All three men turned. Sharply, it was the waitress, slender young woman with sharp brown eyes and a tray tucked against her hip. She stood awkwardly by the table, but her voice had carried firm, steady, and almost commanding. Eric's smile dropped into a scowl. "Excuse me. This is a private business meeting. You have no place here." Victor raised a hand. His curiosity had been piqued. What did you just say? The waitress set her tray down on an empty chair. Her voice didn't waver. I said, don't sign it. Page 7 hides a poison pill. The wording doesn't give you shared equity, it gives them controlling interest. Sign that paper, and you're not making a partnership. You're surrendering your company. Victor blinked, then flipped to page 7. His eyes darted across the paragraph, his heart sinking. He hadn't noticed it before, but now, the phrasing snapped into place. The words majority voting rights sat like a snake, waiting in tall grass. Marcelo leaned back in his chair, laughing coldly. This is absurd. Who are you to interrupt a billion-dollar deal? You're a waitress, nothing more. But the young woman's chin lifted. I was a waitress after I dropped out of law school to care for my mother, but I know contracts. And I know when men like you are trying to gut someone's life's work. The silence at the table grew thick. Victor stared at her, studying her eyes. There was no hesitation there. She wasn't bluffing. Eric slammed his fist on the table. This is outrageous. She's sabotaging a legal contract. You think you can trust the word of a girl carrying water glasses over seasoned investors? Victor's voice was calm, almost dangerous. I've built an empire by trusting people who dared to speak when others stayed silent. He slid the pen back across the table. Meeting over Marcelo's smile cracked. His voice dropped low. You'll regret this, Langford. Security closed in, and within the hour, Victor's team uncovered a string of lawsuits and fraud accusations against Marcelo and Eric. By dawn, they were in police custody, their empire of scams collapsing. Later that night, Victor returned to the restaurant. He found the waitress Alina Marquez waiting at the bus stop in the rain. Her uniform damp, her tray tucked under her arm. He pulled his car up beside her and rolled down the window. You didn't just save me $200 million, he said. You saved everything I've built. She gave a small, tired smile. I just told the truth. Anyone could have done it. Victor shook his head. No, you saw what my lawyers didn't. You had the courage to speak when everyone else was silent. That's rare. He opened the passenger door. How would you like to work for me? Not as a waitress. As part of my company. As my new legal advisor. Alina froze, shocked me. But I never even finished law school. Victor smiled faintly. Doesn't matter. You have sharper instincts than most people with degrees. And I need people who see what others miss. She hesitated, then slid into the car. As they drove off into the night, Alina realized her life had changed in a single moment because she had dared to say 3 words that no one else would. Don't sign that.